I'm still in the process of preparing my toy 5-ton army truck for printing. What I did and discussed in a previous video was I scaled my toy truck down to the same width as a Melissa and Doug semi-truck. So I kind of wanted them to be in scale with my kids' toys. But with that rescale, it it shrinks the model, but it shrinks every part of the model. I mean, all these holes and stuff, like for fasteners. I need to fix the size of these holes. That way my fasteners can go in there properly and not split the plastic apart when I try to tighten them in. Now I already adjusted the holes on my wheels here. So what I'm going to do is show you how I'm going to adjust the holes that make up where the screw axles are going to go. So there's a couple things I want to do here. I want to make this hole bigger so that the screw I put into it is going to bite into my model but not split the plastic apart at the layers. I also need enough thickness here. I want at least 2 millimeters thickness from the bottom of the hole here and the bottom of the wheel mount, just to make it more robust. I choose 2 millimeters because it's based on the minimum thickness I've seen on Hasbro's Transformers action figures. I'm a huge Transformers collector. But I did take some calipers and measured how basically the minimum thickness of like the body plastic that makes up the vehicle modes, or whatever alt mode the Transformer figure has. And Hasbro seems to like 2 millimeters as their thickness. I know that doesn't offer quite the same strength for 3D printing, just due to the nature of the layers just being kind of fused together and not plastic injection molded. But at least in my experience, I found that it's good enough. It's strong enough. So, well, my kids will test it for sure, and I'll figure out what to do from there. Hopefully they won't break it. Hopefully it'll be okay. But first things first, I know that this hole needs to be made bigger. Right now it's at 2.094 millimeters. And for the sheet metal screws I'm going to use to fasten my wheels on, I need the hole to be 3 millimeters, just big enough that I'll get a good grip on the threads inside the hole so that the toy's wheels don't fall off. So in order to make this 3 millimeters, I'm going to use press pull up here. Step 1 is to figure out the difference. So how much bigger do I need to make this thing? So I get the calculator out. I want to make the hole 3 millimeters. I'm going to subtract 2.094 from that. So the difference is 0.906 millimeters diameter. So that's all good, but one thing to keep in mind for push-pull when dealing with circular holes, it doesn't adjust by diameter, but it adjusts by radius instead. So I need to divide this number by 2. So my push-pull adjustment's ultimately going to be 0.453 millimeters. And I'm going to do that with all holes I'm going to use the same screw type on. That's it. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to close out my measure tool first. I'm going to go ahead, select all these holes. I'm just going to control click. It's my favorite way of selecting things. And then I'm going to go up here and click press pull. And I want to adjust it again by 0.453 millimeters. So I'll just type that. 0.453. And it doesn't do anything. I think I need to make it negative 0.453. And there we go. And I'll take the measure tool here and check the diameter. 3 millimeters, exactly where I want it. Now I need to check what the gap is here between the bottom edge of my hole and the bottom of my wheel support. I'm afraid it's going to be actually too thin, because again I want 2 millimeters. So checking that, I get 1.35 millimeters. So that's too thin for me. I don't think that's going to be enough plastic to keep the wheels from breaking keep the wheel axles from breaking the plastic apart. My kids, take the truck for a rough ride. So I need to move this hole as well as the other two holes over here up. I'll move them up by, I guess, a millimeter just for safety. Well, that way there'll be a little over 2 millimeters of plastic gap here. So I'll give that a try. In order to do that, what you can do is you can actually move the faces. So the inside of the hole is actually one continuous face. I'm going to go ahead, Control click to select the axles like that. And I'm going to right click. Okay, I'm not going to see that. Okay, I guess move won't show up here, so I'm going to actually click up here on the move button. And make sure your move object is set to faces, which it is. And I have 3 selected. 1, 2, 3. Now, I'm gonna make it so I can see the right side of my truck clearly. Now, it looks, the way it's set up right now, I can't just straight up move my hole by a millimeter. So, to fix that, I have to reset the pivot. So I'm going to set the pivot by clicking on this right here. And you can actually put this anywhere really, and whatever you want to move will move relative to where you set your pivot. But I think I'll just put it right there, and I'll click on the check mark here to reset my pivot. So now I can just easily move everything vertically up by 1 millimeter. Let's do that. See what happens. See? Look at that. Moves everything up by a millimeter, and you can even type it in exactly here. But right now it's set that everything will move up in millimeter increments. So let's hit OK. And there we go. That's how you can move stuff after you scale the holes, or scale whatever. Now let's check the gap distance here now. I'm going to click on that edge. I'll click on this bottom face here. Actually, you know what? I think a better way to measure would actually be from here to down here. Let's see what we see here. Yeah, according to this, I'm at a gap of, here we go. I'm at a gap of 2.062 millimeters. There we go. We're just a little over 2 millimeters. I think that ought to give my wheel mount, at least the plastic between the hole and the bottom of the wheel mount, enough strength so as to not break apart when the kids take the truck for a rough ride. And I'm just curious what the thickness is from this hole over to that facing. So I'm going to try that. See what it says. And according to this, I'm looking at wow, that's a really confusing measurement. I think that is actually, so I think the way to read this is from the center of my hole to the edge, it's actually about 5 millimeters, and from this edge of the hole to here, it's about 3.5 millimeters. That makes sense to me. So that looks good. I'm just going to take a glance over here. These should both be okay as well. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please be sure to click the like and subscribe buttons below. Also, post any questions you have in the comments and I may answer them in another video. And remember, anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. So keep learning, keep designing, keep making, and be proud of your work.